Welcome to the second episode of the Under Your Bed Horrorcast, a podcast all about horror. Basically, each episode I have a different guest on, and they talk to me about horror and 3 of their selected favourite ones that they'd like to talk about. My second guest is currently the programmer of probably Dublin's favourite cinema. Would you say Dublin's favourite cinema?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Charlene Lydon, the programmer of the Lighthouse Cinema in Smithfield. The Lighthouse was around... It was open for about 3 years, I think.
Yeah, about that.
And then it closed in, I want to say, early 2011.
Yeah.
And then it reopened again with a whole new bunch of owners. Yourself being employed to be the programmer, kind of. It was right. You're. Is that your official title? The programmer.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess so. Okay. How's that going?
Great. Yeah, it's great.
Okay. Is there any plans for Halloween? Because I know there hasn't been that many horror films shown there yet. Maybe Cabin in the Woods, which was brilliant. Mm-hmm. But do you have any big plans for a Halloween festival?
Yes, but we don't have our plans completely ironed out yet. But
okay.
It will be called Fright House.
It will be called Fright House. That's a running theme where you rhyme words with light.
Yeah,
like
all good, so clever.
Yeah, all good art house cinemas have puns in the names of their season.
Yeah.
So the July 4th America Fuck Yeah season.
What do you can say fuck?
We can say fuck. It's my podcast.
Okay.
That was around the 4th of July with what was it? Team America, Point Break, and Top Gun. So you called yourselves
White House.
White House, and then you had a martial arts / action type season around the release of The Raid, and you called it
Fight House.
Right. And last week you just had the idea that you were going to have a 5 a.m. screening of The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight House.
The Dark Knight House, yeah.
Yes.
It was, 5 a.m. That must be surreal.
Yeah, well, we wanted to do a midnight screening and we weren't allowed because it needed to be on at the same time as New York. So we said, we could never open the cinema at 5 a.m. That's crazy. But somehow I managed to convince people that 10 people would show up. But actually 600 people showed up.
So yous were all okay about 10 people showing up. That it was more like...
Yeah.
A bit of publicity, a bit of a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
You're like, come along, and you say free coffee and breakfast. And
yeah, back when we thought there was 10 people going to show up, coffee and pastries was all good, but 600 people, free coffee and pastries is more of a challenge.
Much 4 screens in the Lighthouse.
Yeah.
And you just filled every screen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Filled them. So we all started work at 3:30 in the morning. And it was great, though. I mean, it was really, really good. We had so many people. People wore costumes. People were stupidly giddy. And it was just really, really great. And people really appreciated being able to see Batman at 5 a.m.
Yeah, it was a long film. I saw it later that day. I was going to go for the 5 a.m. but I just...
Oh, you chickened out.
I chickened out.
Yeah, chickened out.
I didn't get enough sleep, and I would have to do a full day of work after that. So
I did a full day of work after that.
You did a full day of... Well, okay. No, sorry.
Not a full day, but nearly a full day.
Was it weird with that incident that happened in Colorado after coming from such a positive cinema experience where people all loved it and dressed up and had a great time, to see such a horrible thing over in the States? Was that kind of strange?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we heard it on the radio on the way back from this amazing event, going back to the office, and it was just horrible. And I think anybody who was there that morning would have to have been completely shocked.
It would hit a nerve.
Yeah, it has to, because I mean, it's the same vibe, the kind of really, really fun...
One of the first screenings, and people are excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, horrible thing. I think Christopher Nolan said it best, where he says cinema is an innocent place and it's a horrible thing to bring into it. So yeah.
It's quite shocking. I mean, if you're sitting there, you're in a safe place, and also you're just like completely immersed in your film, and it wouldn't even cross your mind that something could happen to you there.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Moving on. Let's not dwell on that.
No.
You have a long history with horror film, I would say. Yeah, you've always been a fan of horror?
Always.
Always.
Way before I should have been.
Can you remember the very first horror film you saw?
I don't remember the first horror film I saw, really. I'm thinking about, like, I remember my mum sat me down one time because my sister had rented Child's Play. And I was so scared that I wouldn't like even come downstairs. And she sat me down and gave me a talking to, going, don't be ridiculous. This is just a film. It's just little actors, blah, 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 blah. And she didn't make me watch it, but she kind of convinced me to watch it. So I did. And I think from then on, well, no, actually from even before then, I just loved anything that had murder in it or anything that had like ghosts or mystery or... like I watched Unsolved Mysteries like a crazy person when I was little, and
you read a lot of Stephen King.
I read a lot of Stephen King when I was way too young.
Yeah.
I think the first like Stephen King book or like horror book I read was It, and I read it when I was about 9, and I loved it. And I don't even know how I could read it, but I did, and it was 1,000 pages long.
It's very
but honest to God, not lying, read the whole thing. Don't know how much of it I understood, but I definitely read the whole thing and thought it was amazing.
Right. I know you're from Carlow, and was it JC Video was the name of the video place?
Yeah.
Which I
God
think
rest its soul.
It's gone now, but I think it was actually one of the last few old school VHS rental places.
Yeah.
Still standing up until about 5 years ago.
Yeah, about 5 years ago. It was the best video store in the world ever, and even like up until it closed, it had this massive horror section, and they never got rid of anything. So the same videos I would have looked at when I was 5 through through my fingers.
Yeah, the really cool pulpy artwork.
The really cool pulpy artwork.
Yeah.
Like
had a great horror
basket
section.
case and I don't know, Pumpkinhead and crazy films like that, and I really, really loved how they looked.
Yeah.
So I mean, they were all still there when it closed, or like a bunch of them were still there, and I just loved it. And I would stand there for hours. My dad would be outside beeping the horn. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm coming in a minute," but actually, I was just looking at video covers that I wasn't allowed to rent because I wasn't 18.
Yeah. A lot of them were very disappointing once you watched them. I always thought
I never got to watch them.
Yeah,
it's all about the cover.
It's all about the cover. So you have picked 3 films, and while we're going to be discussing 3 films, the beverage is a bottle of red wine.
Casillero el Diablo.
Yeah,
because there's a little sticker of the devil that I'm going to stick on my t-shirt afterwards.
Really? Okay, yeah. So it has, has a little devil on it, so it's kind of horror themed red wine, and it's also
looks
quite
like blood.
cheap.
Looks like blood.
It looks like blood. So yeah.
That's why I picked mine.
I said this a few times. Your beverage does not have to have any sort of horror theme nonsense.
I don't believe in anything not having a theme, and you know it.
Okay. Right. Well, it happens to be that it's horror themed wine, kind of, and it's also very cheap. It's only like €7. And It's good wine.
You're the best podcast host ever.
Thank you. So 3 films. What are they?
Halloween.
Okay.
Yes. Repulsion.
Mm-hmm.
And The Devil's Rejects.
Okay.
3 very different
We'll
films.
talk about them in that very order, will we?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Halloween is probably going to be on a lot of people's top 10 lists.
Yes.
Even non-horror aficionados. Did I say that?
Aficionados.
Yeah. Even non-horror aficionados.
Yes. I hope I'm right.
I'll just leave it in that I mispronounce aficionados. It looks like in writing, it looks like aficionados or aficionados.
Anyway.
Doesn't matter. So your first one was Halloween. A hugely popular horror film that would go into a lot of people's top 10 lists.
Yes, I'm a complete sellout.
Yeah, it's an indie film.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect film.
Yeah.
Perfect horror film.
Perfect horror film.
So even though I know it's just like everybody's favourite, I'm getting in here first, so that's fine. But I just think that nothing can really beat it, and it's so simple and effective that I had to put it in there.
You had to, okay.
Yes.
I know you're actually juggling between Halloween and Child's Play.
Yeah, I was.
But...
Well, I think that Halloween's a better film than Child's Play,
okay.
but Chucky always has a place in my heart.
Right. Yeah. You actually got to meet Brad Dourif.
I did?
Yeah.
Forgot.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
I have a signed, a big Chucky photograph signed by Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
My prized possession.
Yes, it's very cool. Unfortunately, he spelled Charlene with an S-H when it should be a C. And I tried to fix it going, you know what, you can just put a line underneath that. I think I made it worse.
You made it much worse.
But it's still framed and hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I don't know why you brought that up.
Sorry. It's going way off topic because we're talking about Halloween.
We're talking about Halloween.
John Carpenter's Halloween. considered one of the first slasher films, but considered one of the first stalk and slash films.
Yeah, and it's probably the one that popularised it to the point where everyone just copied it badly.
Yeah, as in there was Black Christmas beforehand, but Halloween just hit the mainstream, and it's probably, that's the film that's responsible for, you know, all those very similar films from the 80s, from The Burning and Sleepaway Camp, and obviously the Friday the 13th films. But yeah, huge influence. What is it about it? Is it what age did you see it? I'm always curious about when people were introduced to a certain type of film.
I'd say I was a bit older, like maybe 15 or so when I saw it. Maybe.
Were you babysitting at the time?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I wasn't. I'm actually thinking I could have been even older because... No, hang on. Whoops. I would have seen it after I watched Scream because I loved Scream so much, and then I was like, have to see Halloween.
Right, okay. But that still would have been fairly young.
Probably
15.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got that basic setup, and I think that's what works about it, is it's so simple that they've gone into, and I liked Rob Zombie's remake, but what's so brilliant about it is Michael Myers and how he's faceless and how he's non-stop. He's like the Terminator of horror films. He just wants to kill, and he has no real motive going on.
Well, if he does, we don't know it.
Yeah, they reveal a bit more of a motive in the second film with the whole brother-sister thing, but in the first one, that's it.
Yeah.
And the whole construct of it, the two babysitters across the road from each other, and the two younger kids, and this Halloween suburban feel to it that works really well.
Yeah, it's wholesome.
It's wholesome.
That's the thing, it's so wholesome.
Haddonfield, Illinois, whereas it has this, like, nothing else happens here, and this one horrible incident just, keeps on repeating itself.
Yeah.
I already mentioned Rob Zombie's remakes, and I know you're obviously a bit of a Rob Zombie fan, because Devil's Rejects is one of your 3.
Yes.
What were your feelings on his 2 Halloween films?
I really liked both of them, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked his Halloween remake, the first one. Even though, I was sort of against it because Halloween is perfect, but, just as a standalone film, I thought it was really cool, and I liked where he went with Michael Myers, and I thought he pulled it off really, really well. And I really liked the second one as well, except for the whole
the
ghost
the
mother
visions of
weird.
The younger Michael.
I thought that was really crap, but, apart from that, I thought it was also really effective. I just think Rob Zombie is an artist, and he does so much with, sound and texture. You just really... I've never felt stabbing more than I felt.
That's it. The sound design in that is you never really, because I think even though it's something that's used so much, stabbing is it's almost overlooked.
So clean, yeah. It's just a
clean.
knife went into you. But Rob Zombie makes you feel in your gut. Horrible, but great.
Through the actor's performance and that sounds, you can hear it scraping through cartilage and bone and everything. It's fairly nasty.
Yeah. But I really did like the first one. I thought it was really great. And if you have to delve into Michael Myers' past and personality, which I'm not really for in a way, but if you have to, I think he did it so well. And the cast and everything in the first one, I think they just pulled it off really nicely. I suppose the problem is that Halloween, the reason I love it is that it is super simple. We don't know anything about Michael Myers, and the reason that Michael Myers is in my nightmares is because we don't know anything about him. He has no personality, he has no face, he has no reason, he's just terrifying. There's
not a bit of comedy to Michael Myers, and I know it's something they would have introduced. Even the first Friday the 13th had a bit of comedy to it, and more so with the rest of that series. And even the Halloween series, even though it's not great, there's a lot of really bad films in there. I don't think they ever got funny with Michael.
And that's really interesting as well, because someone like Freddy Krueger or Jason, they kill with zeal and they love it. He's just dead. He's just a robot. He's not killing because he loves it. He's just killing.
He's not very imaginative with his killing.
No. He's just a machine, and that's what's so scary about him, and that's what's so cool about him. And also his ability to just be somewhere is terrifying. I think particularly the scene during the day, which is also really interesting because it's rare to get a scary scene, but where she's in when she's in school and she looks out the window and she sees him and then she looks out and he's gone, that kind of stuff, that scares the pants off me. That's the scariest shit you can do, is someone being somewhere where they shouldn't be. And, like, he's not supernatural. Kind of, I suppose. I don't know.
Well,
who knows?
Not in the first one, anyway. He doesn't get
Yeah,
into
well,
that.
he's not, I don't know.
He's hard to kill.
He's really hard to kill.
Yeah.
He's too hard to kill for someone who's not supernatural. But I also kind of like that, where they walk the line between... They're not saying he's supernatural, but he's not normal human either, which is so cool.
I kind of like to think that he's almost... he's too simple. He's almost like a crocodile. He's a killing machine. And if you shoot him, his brain doesn't even register being shot.
Yeah.
To register pain, and he would just keep on going.
He just keeps going.
He just has this one thing he wants to do. There's a great, which kind of sells this him not being human idea, is when I forget the name of the character. He stabs a victim and he almost pins them to the wall, and then as he's holding in the knife, he kind of looks at them sideways,
pops his head to the side,
like
curiously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's a dead human.
Yeah, it's chilling. That's
yeah, it is. It's really horrible, and I know that you see that kind of stuff quite a bit now. It's like this kind of crazy killer who's like, But I think Michael Myers was the first time you saw someone who just was a proper like animal about it, who just couldn't feel empathy at all and just didn't bother trying.
Yeah, yeah, and the mask obviously is very effective.
Cool mask,
because you better see his darker overall, so in some scenes all you can see is just this floating kind of white face.
And it's so drawn,
and
it's so dead, and it's cool, and doesn't look a thing like William Shatner.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I'd love to see what it looked like before. I know they painted the white and they made the eye holes bigger, but I'm not seeing William Shatner.
Maybe it was kind of a shitty mask.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Any more to say about Halloween? Will we move on?
Sure.
To Repulsion.
Yes.
One of Polanski's, I think, and we actually already mentioned another of his Apartments trilogy horror thing. I don't know.
It was the first one, so
Repulsion was the first one. Yeah.
And it was his first English language film. Not that there's a whole lot of talking in it.
No, and there's also a lot of French because
two French actresses.
And the lead character, Catherine Deneuve.
Yes.
I didn't do French, so French names don't roll off my tongue like that. Deneuve.
Yes.
I am sorry. Okay. Who's French? She's in London, staying in her sister's apartment while her sister is on holiday, and she seems a little bit. I don't know what's the word. Would you go for? She's
unhinged.
She's unhinged. Yeah. She's a very nervous person and extremely paranoid, particularly around men.
Around men. Yeah. She's got a ridiculous, debilitating fear of men, which is just completely exaggerated when her sister goes away for many reasons, and it's built up like her relationship with a man and her sister's relationship with a man, and just the fear of this landlord figure that's completely irrational because he's just a normal man. But there's just so many things in it that exaggerate her fear of men to the point where, oh my god, the most awful stuff happens in her head, or not out of her. Not some of it in her head, some of it awful stuff that she does.
We can get into actually because the idea of the podcast is that if you haven't seen Repulsion, you should probably watch it now so we can properly discuss it.
Watch it first because this will be spoilerific.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of spoilers because there's some great shocks in Repulsion. Yeah. you only actually watched it the other night, rewatched it. I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah, I'd seen it a few times.
But it's still effective.
Yeah. The first time I saw it, I wasn't expecting it to be really scary because I'd seen a lot of other Roman Polanski films, and I'd seen Rosemary's Baby, and it's not something I would call scary.
No.
It's
unsettling.
Yeah, it's unsettling,
disturbing.
It's thrillery, but I watched Repulsion on my own in bed. Just took it on, it was kind of late, I'd come in from work, I'd been working till 12, I came up and just said, let's stick on Repulsion. So I stuck it on, and oh my god, it was the most scary thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and I couldn't sleep a wink after. I had to sleep with the light on. I was terrified.
Yeah, as in you're in a completely wrong situation to be watching.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on your own,
I'm not
in
a good
apartments.
person to be on my own in general. Don't like being on my own overnight. I don't sleep very well. I usually have to turn on Seinfeld. So something to just kind of distract me when I'm on my own.
As in this film, kind of, as it's a lot of stuff happens in it, and it's really up in the air about what actually does really happen and what is in her head.
Yeah.
As in, there's a few scenes where you're wondering if she's just almost playing out what the worst thing possible to happen might be.
Yeah.
One of the scenes is when a man comes in her room and he's walking towards the camera, and it does this weird little thing where it cuts away, and then he's suddenly a lot closer than you expect him to be, and then he's on top of her, and you're not sure after watching that if that really happened. I don't think it did happen.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
To send her over the edge, though. But that's the most terrifying. That was the moment, actually, that I just went, oh, fuck this. I'm going to turn it off. I didn't turn it off. I should have. So it's just this thing where you see that there's movement in the bathroom is next door to her, but for some weird reason there's a door between her bedroom and her bathroom, which is odd. But there's a wardrobe pushed up against it. And you can see that there's movement in the bathroom, but there shouldn't be anyone in the house. So you know yourself, you're in bed, and you're on your own, and you look out and you're sure you can see a shadow moving under the door, but you know it's stupid. There's obviously not anybody in the house. But then in this case, this man opens the door and pushes the wardrobe out of the way and comes into her room and rapes her, which is exactly what you imagine will happen when you're on your own.
Right. Well, that's the thing. The film plays to how a lot of people might think of that situation, but unfortunately,
you know, you're being paranoid.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's happening to a person who's not completely well in the head in the first place. So she kind of just runs with it.
Yeah,
that's actually. I'm almost frustrated by how easily she runs with her dementia in the film. That you kind of, I almost resent her because she ends up doing some horrible things.
Yeah, you're just like, cop on.
Yeah, you feel like
on, love, talk to someone,
grabbing her and shaking her, and stop being so sucked into this so easily. Obviously, that's just
that's just your frustration.
That's just my frustration. Obviously, the film works because of that. Yeah. But also the one standout scene, which has been copied over and over and over again in a lot of horror films, is the mirror scene. Ugh. Where it's very casually done, where she goes into her bedroom and she's looking for something in her wardrobe, and you see that there's a mirror on the wardrobe door,
the outside door.
On the outside door, and she opens it, and so you can see a quick glimpse of across the room in the reflection, and then as she closes it, there's a man in the corner of the room, and it doesn't linger on the man, it just flashes by, and there's a swell of music to really drive it home, and it's terrifying because you're not expecting it at all.
No, because I mean, it's what's so odd about it as a scary film is that it's actually really slow paced, and you're not expecting to get fright at any point. You know, it doesn't feel like a scary film. It feels like maybe a psychological thriller or whatever, but it doesn't feel like a horror film. Yeah. And then it just turns into one.
Yeah.
But then, so you have an incident like that, and then there's nothing scary again for 15, 20 minutes. So you still don't think there's going to be loads more scares. I mean, it's not like a real scary, jumpy film, but it's nerve shredding. Like, it's horrible. And you have like stuff like that he plants there, like the rabbit, this rabbit that she was going to cook, that her sister was going to cook like days earlier, and it's just been left out of the fridge, and it's starting to
causing flies.
And it's just there, and it's just rotting, and it just, well, you know, it's like her psyche.
And there's potatoes as well, and the potatoes are starting
to grow like
sprouts,
little sprouts, and it's just so deeply unsettling in so many ways, but it's also an absolutely beautiful film. It looks beautiful. It's so nicely paced. It's just so well done. And she's brilliant. I mean, she says nothing in the film. She rarely speaks. Yeah. It's all just her. And she plays it so innocently, like a little girl, and just completely doe-eyed. You would never expect for her to go crazy and be a lunatic. But she's almost like a child, and what I find really interesting, this is something I didn't really notice until the last time I watched it, the film opens on her eyes, on like a really close-up shot of her eyes. The credits
actually are in her eyes.
Yeah.
And old little optic little thing.
Lovely.
Yeah, it looks
but then it closes on an old photograph that's on the floor of their living room at the end. Old photograph of her and her family.
Would you like more one?
Yes, please. Her and her family, and she's looking over at her dad accusingly with this terrifying look in her eye of like, scared. It's a really weird little photograph.
Never picked up. I always saw that picture, and I always thought it meant that there was always something a little bit off with her. But I never noticed that she was looking at her dad.
She's looking at her dad, and she's like terrified and accusing.
So there's a backstory there, pretty much. That they're hinting at that obviously.
Well, maybe it is what you think. Maybe it's a thing where she's always been weird around men.
She's always been a little bit distant, as well. I thought it was saying.
Oh, no.
But no, I never copped where she was actually
looking at her dad.
Oh, okay.
But then the camera goes in and in and into her eyes, and it's so chilling. The eyes of that little girl would almost make you cry in the end.
There's a lot of horror films do that, where after all these jumps and scares, and even though it's a highbrow film, there's actually a lot of jumps and scares in this film.
Weird things.
You're not expecting. And then it does this thing where it's a lingering shot on something.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
But also those shots always unnerve me because I'm waiting on something else.
Yeah,
I know.
A big hand is going to come through the photograph.
Yeah, even though it's Roman Polanski we're talking about, and he wouldn't do that.
He didn't do that.
No. But that's interesting. Obviously, you think it's hinting that she was possibly molested by her dad.
Yeah.
And that's...
I really do think that's what it is, and I think
right.
I thought that was really... Well, I mean, it's kind of obvious. It's an obvious thing to do now, but I think back then that was actually a pretty amazing way to end it.
It's not that obvious. I've seen it twice now.
No, but I mean, like, the thing of, like, she's so damaged because she was molested by her dad. But it was inserted in such a
I think
nice
a lot
way.
of films would really drive that point home.
Yeah. No, they didn't at all. I mean,
they don't. It's just a shot.
And it's such a chilling photograph as well. Like, it's a great ending. It's a beautiful ending. Roman Polanski, say what you will, he is an amazing filmmaker.
Where would you rank it with the other of that trilogy as they put together, The Tenant and Rosemary's Baby, which was
best one?
It's the best one.
Well, yeah, I definitely. I really like Rosemary's Baby, and I really like The Tenant. And they're also different. Like, they're just completely different for films that are so similar.
Yeah, there's a few similar themes with Rosemary's Baby about isolation.
Isolation, yeah. And being in an apartment.
Yeah, very much.
Being blonde.
Very much about being a woman as well, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, feeling vulnerable.
Yeah, and it is a thing. And I always think people like Roman Polanski is obviously villainized quite a lot, especially in relation to women. But I always feel like sometimes people accuse him and people like Lars von Trier as well, like of like torturing women in their films because so they hate them. But I feel it's completely the opposite. I feel like people like Roman Polanski and Lars von Trier make these films that terrorize women because they just yearn to understand them and they're fascinated with them. And I think that Roman Polanski was utterly fascinated by people and fascinated by women and what it is about them that makes them different, and they're vulnerable for what reason, and they're just I just feel like he has a certain, it's not an understanding of women, it's more a naivety about women that he's exploring as much as he can.
Yeah, so it's something he touches on in Chinatown as well, the father-daughter relationship there, which obviously, you know, another unsettling relationship that he touches on. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to your last film, which is Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects, which is a kind of a sequel. It's one of those sequels that you can very much watch on its own, where I haven't seen the first film, which was House of a Thousand Corpses. Before we get on to Devil's Rejects, have you seen House of a Thousand Corpses?
Yeah, I saw House of a Thousand Corpses like when it came out on DVD first, because everyone was banging on about it, and I saw it and I was majorly nonplussed with it. I just wasn't I wasn't a fan of it at all.
I watched it too, and it's not terrible. It's a well made film. It was his first film.
It's a cool looking film.
Yeah, it's a very cool looking film, and I think people were saying how disturbing it was, and I think the film doesn't actually show much.
No, it doesn't really. No,
it's all in the editing and the cinematography and how it's put together that kind of creates this really disturbing thing that makes you think what you're watching.
Grotesque, but there's not actually that much violence.
It makes you think what you're watching is a lot more grotesque than it actually is, and it's fairly run of the mill almost.
Yeah, no, it is. It's pretty run of the mill. I do love that shot that we were talking about it the other day.
Oh, right, yeah.
Orly Ermy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shooting Walton Goggins in the head, and it's just like he's got a gun to his head, and the camera just moves up and up and up and up and up, way up into the heavens, and then you just hear a bang, and it's the coolest thing. And that's the one thing that stood out in that film.
But it introduced the Captain Spaulding character, played by Sid Haig.
But it introduced him in kind of a crappy, I'm this like new horror
icon.
Right. And I felt like it was trying a bit hard. So I was just like, Captain Spaulding, he's cool, but like, he's not, that wasn't crazy. You know, I didn't really get in there.
So you must have been really shocked when you really liked The Devil's Rejects.
I was shocked.
You were shocked.
I was so shocked.
Right.
I had heard, actually loads of people had said The Devil's Rejects was really good, but a lot of people had said House of Thousand Corpses was really good, so I sort of avoided it. And I only saw it in 2008. We, I think you might have made me watch it. I watched it on my own when I was at home one day, and I stuck it on, like just kind of stuck it on in the background, and about like 5 minutes in, I just thought it was so cool.
It looks cool.
It looks so beautiful. Like it's gorgeous. And what lacked in House of a Thousand Corpses was that these characters were just, because they are such like obvious horror characters that you don't really even care.
There's a little bit of everything in there. There's a bit of Hills Have Eyes. There's a bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it kind
you
of
know these characters
like,
so well that you're just sort of like, oh, okay, well she's like the hot one who lures them in, and Captain Spaulding's like the weirdo guy. And it's just, you just feel like I've seen these before. But what the amazing thing that The Devil's Rejects does is not only does it give them like proper personalities, but you so care about them.
You do care about them.
Awful. They're doing the most awful things.
They do horrible things.
They're awful. Like the scene, the very long extended sequence in the motel with that family is just like, they're just doing horrible things.
They abuse them in all types of ways. Physically and sexually, mentally, they do horrible things. Yeah. So how Rob Zombie still makes you care about these characters is beyond me.
Because they love each other.
Because they're a family for
really
one.
Silly. Yeah, they really, really love each other, and they really look out for each other, and like, they're so lovable as like those kind of like, you know, your gritty uncle who's a bit mad and he lives in a caravan and he drinks too much, but he, you know, you kind of, you know, he's lovely. Yeah. But you know, I know they're not lovely, but you can't help but love them. And the end, and this is a spoiler zone again, I guess.
Well, we should just the setup of Devil's Rejects is it opens up with kind of like a siege on the villains from House of a Thousand Corpses. And it ends up with three of the main people, played by Sherry Moon Zombie, who's Baby. Bill Moseley plays Otis, and Sid Haig playing Captain Spaulding. And they're pretty much on the run. Who's their dad? He's away. He isn't there for the siege, so they've escaped. Their mother has been taken into custody, so it keeps on cutting back to her being. Sometimes she's horrible, and then sometimes the sheriff, I don't know if he's a sheriff or marshal,
whatever,
the guy who's
the cop,
pretty much the guy
they killed his brother, so he's obsessed with
him. And even though he's the guy on the right side of all this, he's a prick. He's a prick. You end up really
like
hating
an Al Swearingen type character who's just such a prick, but you can't really like him. I don't know how Rob Zombie does this.
No.
You really can't like him. I think there's that hilarious scene where they bring the film critic in.
Yeah. They discover that Captain Spaulding is the name of a Groucho Marx character. And then that leads to them bringing in a film critic. Because I think the film, they never really... It's a little bit ambiguous about when the film's set. I think it's 1978 because someone says Groucho Marx died last year, which was 77. That's... the only hint you have at
it feels like the 70s.
Really. It feels like the 70s, but it's also, apart from that one little reference, I almost think that film could be anything between the 70s to now. Yeah, because of the setting, everything, it is timeless. It has a kind of almost
really feels like the 70s though.
Yeah. It does, but
aesthetically it looks like the 70s.
Almost feels like what Grindhouse did, where it kind of...
Yeah.
That also felt like the 70s. Both those, the two parts of that, but they're actually set in modern day.
Right. Well, less, I mean, I think The Devil's Rejects does that Grindhouse thing a lot better than the Grindhouse films did, but whatever.
Yeah, well, it doesn't use, like, fake burns or anything. It doesn't do anything like that. It just feels like a honest to goodness exploitation film. Yeah. Almost.
Because it is one.
Yeah, because it is one.
I mean, it's just the stuff that goes on in The Devil's Rejects. It's not really vile. Like it's really violent.
It's really violent.
It's not like terribly gory. Like it's not like that kind of torture.
Would you even? It's
Could you call it a horror film?
Yeah,
barely.
I call it horror because of what goes on in it, and the fact that it's actually
a sequel to
a sequel to what's very much a horror film.
Yeah,
and it's called The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah,
but it's not really scary. It just features a lot of horrific stuff.
There is, a lot of really horrible stuff, like really disgusting.
The scene that really sticks out to me is they take one of they pretty much take this whole family captive and they have them in a motel, and they take the two men of the family off, and I forget why, but they end up both being killed, the two men, and Bill Moseley's character ends up cutting off the younger guy's face, making a mask out of it, and then he goes back wearing the mask, messing around, and then later you see the maids come into the room. And she goes into the room after the Devil's Rejects have long run, and one of the victims, one of the girls from the family, is kind of tied up, and she has the mask on her, and it's this horribly kind of funny scene almost in a weird way, where the maid is terrified, and the poor woman is running out with the guy's face on her face, screaming she can't get it off, and then she's crushed by a truck.
Yeah.
And then it shows the aftermath, and it's proper roadkill. It's not just a dead body. She's splattered for a few meters down the road. It's very gritty.
It is.
It's
really
fairly
gritty.
Nasty.
Yeah.
But fun in the same way.
Yeah, I'm not convincing myself that this is one of the greatest horror films ever made.
Well, it's not even... It's definitely a great film.
But
it's more like you just... you really enjoyed it. You watched it a few times.
I watched it so many times, and I'd watch it a million times. I just think it's so beautiful. Like, Rob Zombie is an amazing director, and sometimes his films are flawed, but like his films look so gorgeous. They just really, really do. They grab me, and I think it is stunning what he does with those characters and how you care so much about their well-being, and they're kind of... I think the thing is, and nobody's ever really done this before, but they created a sequel where these people you've seen as evil, you see them behind the scenes, right? So sometimes in The Devil's Rejects, you see them in character. So they're like in the motel torturing these people, and you know these people from House of a Thousand Corpses. You're like, oh, that's that horrible family from House of a Thousand Corpses. But then behind the scenes, they're having a laugh together, and they're really upset because their mother's been taken.
And there's the scene where it just shows the three of them driving along, and Baby wants to get ice cream.
Yeah.
And it's about...
And Otis is like,
no, I'm not getting ice cream. And it cuts and she's got ice cream because she's the baby of the family, and they're all licking ice cream. And it's
really
sweet little moments like that.
It's amazing, and I think it's also what makes it unique, is that it is the behind the scenes of crazy killers, you know? So, I mean, that's fascinating, because they're not, I mean, whatever the nature of evil, but like they're not monsters. They're evil people who just take so much glee in killing others. But having said that, they also have their moments of like just joy and pleasure and love for each other and simple things, and they are kind of like cute.
And it really drives that home at the end, which it was a brave choice to use Freebirds. So
great.
Which I think most filmmakers will be kind of like, really? We use Freebirds?
Doesn't everyone use Freebirds?
Yeah, isn't that a bit... Yeah.
But it is a bit lame, and it starts...
It's a little bit lame, but it really works.
Is it time to talk about the final sequence?
It's fun, yeah.
Okay.
So
because this is what sold me completely.
They've gotten away from... We haven't even mentioned it. The Tiny character has pretty much saved them.
Yeah.
Tiny is... I forget the actor's name. He's the Joints, pretty much, from Big Fish. He's under a lot of makeup. He looks grotesque, and he's just saved them, and they are driving off, and they think they're
driving off to freedom.
Yes, so Freebird's playing.
Yeah, which is kind of lame, and I did a little bit roll my eyes when Freebird came on. So they're just driving, and they're fucked because they've just been under siege, and they're just bloody, and they're probably just gonna die. They've had nails
through their hands.
Yeah, they've been tortured, and they're probably gonna die on their way to wherever the hell they're going in their car. And
it's also cutting between that and kind of like home video footage of them. Just
when they were, and they're having fun, and she's dancing, and she's so pretty, and so it cuts between those two kind of things of them like dying in the back of the car, and this home video footage of them all happy and dancing around and all that, and Freebird starts playing and you're kind of going, Jesus, this is so lame. But then down the road,
Freebird's a brilliant song.
Oh yeah, it is.
But there's just a little bit of eye rolling when you hear
it on the nose as well. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be free now, so we take Freebird.
Yeah.
And but like, I mean, it's also the perfect song because Lynyrd Skynyrd is that world, right? So
right, yeah.
I mean, it works. But so as it goes on, you see that there's actually a barricade down the road a little bit, and there's cops there with guns blazing. They're just going to die. And it's just this lovely...
And this is all done by... It's just that the song is filling up the whole soundtrack. You don't hear any of this,
And it's the full song. It's the full Freebird as well. So it's a long
He probably paid a lot of money for it, so he's going to use the whole song.
Yeah, so they played the whole song, and it goes from, them free and relaxing in the sun and going like, phew, we're going to get better, it'll be fine, or we'll just die, but at least we're free.
Yeah.
To them realising, oh my god, that's it, we're going to die, what will we do, this is awful, and then they just get their guns out and go out fighting, and they try to go out fighting, but they're it's when Freebird actually starts to pick up and gets a little bit faster, and they whip out their guns and they just go for a bit of a Thelma and Louise ending. And it ends on this gorgeous freeze frame. It's beautiful. I love the end. I think it's my really favourite ending.
And I think they actually bring the sound in of them being shot, and there's all these quick little freeze frames, and it's
I'm not going to lie, I've cried every time I watch it. I will up. I really don't. I'm so Jesus, it's so emotional. I just think
despite they're horrible people, but he still makes you.
Don't care. I love them. They're just great. And the other thing that they do in the middle is that they bring them to their friend's house, and they're having like a party, but it's a debaucherous party, and there's like bunch of cocaine, and they're just like it's debauchery, but like they're just happy, and they have their friends who are also crazy and horrible, but they all love each other and they're having such a great time, and you're just like, oh no, don't disturb them. You just love them, and I think the ending is so poignant, and I just can't say good enough things about the ending. And again, Rob Zombie and his cinematographer, who I don't know who he is, but or she is remarkable. I mean, it's just so nicely shot. It's just beautiful looking. I've never seen it on the big screen. And
so would this be possibly a fright house around Halloween in the Lighthouse?
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I would love to do a double bill of House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. And I would like to do a double bill of House of the Devil and The Innkeepers, but that's another podcast.
Well, that's it. We're almost thinking that when it comes closer to Halloween, maybe we'll go through all your selections for that program, and
whatever we end up doing.
So there's no actual hints there.
No, I have no idea. The Devil's Rejects on the big screen would be my dream. I would love to see it on that and The Proposition. They're my two films that I want to see on the big screen.
Kind of similar themes.
Kind of. They're very hot.
Very hot.
Very gross.
About family.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Now I gave you a choice of 3, and I know one of your ones might have been Child's Play. Was there any other films that if you were given a choice of 5, what else could you have? Scream. I feel like
I should have mentioned Scream because it's completely responsible for me liking everything else.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, I won't talk about it.
No, you cannot. You just can't. Go on. We'll talk about Scream.
Okay. Well,
move in a bit.
First of all, it has Drew Barrymore in it, which is she's my favourite person of all time. But I have to say that apart from me always being obsessed with the macabre, Scream was the one that made me interested in horror films.
I think a lot of snobs will turn up their nose at Scream in the whole scheme of horror, but it's also
that's not fair.
It's also what, for a certain generation, what got a lot of people into horror.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But also, I mean, there's no bad word to be said against Scream. I mean, it came before all the ironic slashers happened. And it's an excellent horror film because it's really scary.
It is scary. The Drew Barrymore opening is brilliant.
No, I think it's a fantastic film, and it's a bit outdated. No, it's not outdated if you watch it, but like you think of Scream, you roll your eyes. It's much like what yourself and Emmett were saying about the Blair Witch Project last podcast.
Right,
It's too popular for its own good, and I think it's fantastic.
And it's had 3 sequels of varying quality. Scream 2.
Second one's great. Don't care. It says a lot about sequels. It's
second
just
one was
as clever
pretty good.
as Scream.
Scream 3 was pretty terrible.
Scream 3 was awful. Scream 4 was pretty awful too. I'm sorry.
It was awful, but it was like one of those nostalgic appeal to it, almost.
Well, that's why I went to see it, but it was crap.
But
I was very
I'm not rushing
disappointed.
back to watch again.
No.
Okay, thank you for coming on, Charlene.
You're welcome, Bren.
Okay. Thanks everybody for listening. See ya.
Bye.